Have you ever finished a design, looked at it, and felt like something is off? Maybe all the information is there, the colors work, the images are good, and the font size is nice, but somehow it still feels messy and confusing, or just maybe not professional. The problem might not be your individual elements. It might be your layout. Layout is one of the most important things in graphic design because it controls how the audience experiences your information. It decides what they see first, where their eye moves, and how easy it is to understand your message. In this video, I'm going to break down practical tips that you could use whenever you're designing. This includes posters, brochures, social media graphics, and so much more. We are going to talk about grid, spacing, alignment, and hierarchy, and how to create a layout that feels organized and not random. So whether you're a beginner or someone who just wants to make more polished work, these tips could help you make stronger design. Before we get into tips, let's define what layout actually is. Layout is the visual arrangement of elements on your page or screen. This includes where you place text, images, and logos, shapes, colors, and even white space. Think of your layout like the blueprint of the building. Before construction workers can begin, they need to know where everything goes. And the same thing happens with layout in graphic design. A good layout creates structure, and a bad layout, it makes everything compete for attention. And the biggest mistake that most beginners make is thinking that layout is about making everything look balanced, when in actuality, it's creating the visual journey. Always keep in mind that you're guiding your viewer through information. So let's talk about grids. A grid is basically a system of invisible lines that help you organize information. Most beginners hear grid and think it's something complicated, but really it's just the guides. Imagine placing a few lines on your page and saying, this is where the text starts. This is where the images align. This is where my margins should be. That is a grid. The purpose of a grid is not to restrict creativity. It is actually to give your creativity a foundation. You could also think of it like writing on lined paper. The lined paper doesn't stop you from writing something interesting. It's just there to help everything feel organized. Imagine you're designing a concert poster. A beginner might place the band name at the top, a giant image in the middle, and the event details at the bottom. I feel like that's very standard. But without a grid, all these elements could feel disconnected. A simple poster grid, it has a large top section for the title, a middle section, and that's usually where the main image goes, and usually a smaller bottom section that has things like the date, location, and tickets. And now everything has a place. The viewer automatically understands what's happening, when it's happening, who's going to be there. The layout is there to do the communication for you. One of the easiest ways to instantly improve your design is to pay attention to alignment. Alignment means making sure that your elements visually connect. For example, if you have several bodies of text, don't just place them wherever they fit. Choose a consistent alignment for each one to fall on. Maybe all your text starts on the same left line. Maybe your images line up with the same edges. These small decisions create a sense of professionalism. The viewer might not consciously notice the alignment, but they could feel the difference. A design with strong alignment feels intentional, and a design without alignment, it feels like everything was just thrown on the page. Imagine you're creating an Instagram announcement. You have something like new collection available, a product image, a shop now button. One common mistake here is centering everything because it feels safe, but a stronger layout would look something like this. On the left side, headline, supporting text, call to action. Maybe on the right side you have a product image. This creates balance because you're giving every element room to breathe. The alignment of it, it creates structure. Good layouts tell people where to look first. And this is called hierarchy. Not everything in your design should have the same level of importance. If everything looks bold, then everything is fighting. Think about a newspaper. The biggest headline, it tells you the main story. Smaller headlines give you supporting information. And the body text, that provides details. Design works the exact same way. You could create hierarchy by using size, weight, and color. You could also use things like placement and spacing. Okay, now imagine opening a restaurant menu. The restaurant name should probably be larger. Sections like appetizer and main course, they should be noticeable. And the description of each item, it should be smaller. And the price should be easy to find, but not overpower the food names. A good menu layout, it helps customers decide what to eat. And a bad menu, it just makes people work harder. Remember, Designing isn't just about making something look attractive. It's about making information easy to understand. And one of the biggest misconceptions most beginners have is that white space is wasted space. It's not. White space is also called negative space, and it gives your elements room to breathe. When every corner is filled, nothing feels important. Imagine someone talking to you without taking a breath. Eventually, me personally, I'll just zone out and stop understanding what they say. Think of design the same way. You need to take pauses. It allows important elements to stand out. Look at luxury brands. Many luxury brands, they use large empty spaces, minimal text, and simple compositions. Why? Because empty space communicates confidence. The design is quietly saying, we don't need to fill every inch to get your attention. Of course, this doesn't mean that every design should be minimal. A children's event poster, it needs energy and information. So the goal is not to have empty space everywhere, it's to be intentional with using it. Now, let's look at a few common grid systems. First up, the single column grid. This is the simplest grid. Everything follows one main column. This works well for articles and reports, mobile designs, simple posters. It creates a clean reading experience. And next up, we have the multi-column grid. This divides your page into multiple sections. For example, a magazine, it might use a 3-column grid. Text can flow across columns. Images could take up multiple sections. Information, it feels very organized. This is useful for magazines, brochures, and newspapers. It is often used on websites too. And then next up, we have the modular grid. This type of grid uses rows and columns, creating small sections. You could think of it like a spreadsheet. This could be used when you have lots of information. Some useful examples of this are calendars or product catalogs, portfolio websites even. This type of grid helps organize many different pieces. And the next tip I have for you guys is don't forget consistency. A strong layout has repeating patterns. For example, a website, it might use the same spacing between sections. A brochure might use the same margins on every page. On social media, you might have the same title placement. Consistency creates recognition. It also saves you a lot of time because then you're not recreating the layout for every single individual design. And that's why design systems are so powerful. They create rules that make design even easier. Now, after hearing all these rules, maybe you think to yourself, wait, can I ever break the grid? Absolutely. Great designers, they break the grid all the time. But here's the important part. You need to understand the grid before you break it. Breaking the grid should be intentional. For example, a fashion magazine, it might have text that overlaps. A music poster, it might use unusual angles. The design feels creative because the designer is controlling the chaos. Random placement, it's not breaking the grid. It's just ignoring the structure. Great layouts, they're not created by just randomly moving things around until it looks okay. They are created through decisions. A strong layout, it considers what the viewer sees first. What information matters most? How can I make this easier to understand? Grids, alignment, spacing, and hierarchy, they are rules that are there not to limit creativity. They are there to help creativity communicate more effectively. So next time you're designing and something feels like it's missing, don't change the color or the font. It might be the layout. Check your spacing, your alignment, your hierarchy, because that's the difference between an amateur design and a professional design. Sometimes it's the structure underneath. And remember, good design isn't just about making things look pretty. It's about making things make sense. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and subscribe. I make videos just like this every single week. And let me know in the comments, what type of layout do you struggle with the most? Is it for posters, websites, social media? I'd love to hear what you're working on. But okay, that's all I have for you right now. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!